rubbed its face?
I think we were just mentally not prepared. It really felt like, you go into a game and you feel like you're scrambling the whole time. And I compare it to golf. You're hitting left, you're hitting right, and you got no straight shots, and you can't figure out why it's going the wrong way. And then you play the next game, and you can't miss. You look at the Ironman. I'll give you an example. Parrish. He ran off the break. He dove into the two bunker, the tall tower on the snake side, and he played comfortable. He was relaxed. He played easy, and if you watched us, we weren't comfortable. Looking like hindsight's 20/20, but looking back, we didn't have to be unpredictable. You look at the finals match. What happened? Both teams dove into the first snake tower every point. We went snake. We went corner. We went up.
Welcome to Go Sports Live. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone's staying safe and staying sane out there with all this craziness going on. I got Clint Johnson on the show today from AC Diesel. He's played for a bunch of good teams over the years. We're going to talk about his history. I think he should be way more paintball famous based on his skills. So, Clint, I want to hear how you got to this position, where you are right now. Also, everyone, as you can see in that little preview there, episode 2 of the Impact series just dropped. And we got a lot of content coming at you guys every week here. Mondays on Go Sports, it's Stay at Home with San Diego Dynasty, Ryan Greenspan. And then we're doing Tactical Tuesdays. We just had Keith Brown. We're going to have Todd Martinez breaking down the finals from the event in Vegas. That one's coming up next week. And then we do live shows, Go Sports Live, Wednesdays and Fridays. So, and we got the Ultimate Shootout coming up May 30th. So Clint is going to be participating in the Ultimate Shootout. He also participated in the demo round that we did, and I thought you looked really good there. So I was like, we got to get Clint on the show. So, man, how you doing?
Yeah, appreciate it, Maddie. Doing really good. Excited to get back to paintball. There's been quite a large break with this quote-unquote pandemic going on. So, yeah, fired up to get back around the sport and help anyway and get out there and shoot at my friends. That's for sure.
Well, let's start with kind of how you got to here, because, you've played on quite the laundry list of teams over the years. I mean, you're not that old. You're only 26, but you've been doing this for quite a while. So, I always like to kind of pick everyone's brain and see how they got to where they are. I think it's inspirational for some of the up-and-coming guys out there, man. It doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you'll have splurges here or there, but everyone's story is a little bit different about how they got to the position that they're in. I think you're the dark horse at this one-on-one. I'm really excited, just like you are, and just like everyone, that at least some type of paintball is being played. I mean, HK came out with their one-on-one thing. I've been hearing about there's going to be some regional events that are going to potentially happen with the NXL. We're still all kind of waiting to see how things roll out in the next couple weeks, though, with some of the states with, reopening everything. So everyone's crossing our fingers. But I've been saying this, come hell or high water, we're going to get competitive paintball in some way, shape, or form played again. So I am stoked that things are starting to loosen up, and we got to find those places. So Texas is one of those places. So we assembled some Texas paintball players to throw down and see who's going to win this one. But it's interesting matchups. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's start with your story, dude. So how'd you get started, and take me on a little bit of a journey here?
Yeah, so started chapter 1. Paintball wasn't something I was too familiar with. I kind of grew up doing sports and outdoors, playing a ton of sports, and my family, we used to go to like Bass Pro Shop, Cabela, stuff like that for all our hunting utensils. And just one year we came across some paintball gear, the generic plastic kits that has a really cheap goggle, really cheap setup, and all that good stuff. And we just played at our home in the country outside of city limits. And it was one of the coolest memories. I recall it because my dad always kind of would show us games or sports, and he'd always beat us at it. But with paintball, he said, hey, we're going to get out here and play in the woods. And if you get shot, I don't want you to flop around on the ground like a fish out of water, be a man about it. And I remember precisely, we get geared up, we're figuring out how these guns work. And my dad had on one of those padded tactical vests, and it was a little too small. So his gut was showing a little bit. And I remember right when we started, I just turned out of one of these trees and shot him right below the vest. And my father then dropped his gun and flopped like a fish on the ground. So that's really what got me hooked. You know, it was one of those things where I beat my dad initially versus getting beaten up and learning, you know, how to win at stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. My first introduction to paintball, I think it was a V-loader triad, didn't even have a foregrip. It was like a steel CO2 macro line. And yeah, we did that, and then looked up paintball on YouTube, found a local field. I think I played back-to-back years, like just for my birthday. And then, yeah, just fell in love with the sport, the competitive side of it. That was a field called Fort Paintball out in Murphy, I believe. And yeah, then the following year, I think I was about 12 or 13. I can't recall exactly. But that's when I started going out pretty regularly. And there was a team called Texas Select that actually had TJ Danner used to play on, Dimitri Ninos. They played on that divisional team. And that was the first time I actually saw a team in person that was practicing and was like, this is pretty cool. You know, I was used to team sports, football, soccer, track, cross country, but nothing with this type of adrenaline rush. And so really started to get my own gear and play all the weekends and see the same people out there every weekend. And a few friends of mine got together. Couldn't really afford to play as much as we liked. And at that time in Texas, there really wasn't a whole lot of local events. It was mainly charity type events where you buy a bunch of toys and that was your entry fee to get in. There was no prizes and stuff like that. And then I think it was 2010 was the first year I actually got on a team. That was a team called Dallas Roots. We played Division II. And with my finances, I just couldn't commit to flying and stuff like that. So the first national tournament I played was actually 2010. It was the last year that Chicago was at Badlands. And the whole event was underwater. It was a mud pit. I didn't even know what any teams were, any of their names, their rosters, to an extent. But I do remember we played 187 at that event and beat them. I think we were one of the few teams that beat them that entire year when they played Division II. But yeah, that was 2010. That was my first introduction to tournament paintball. Once the off season came upon us, that's when Texas Storm held tryouts with Ryan Gray and Mark Johnson putting together that organization. And I didn't really have any skills at the time. I was mainly just that fast young kid who could make the snake off the break, and that was really it. No gunfighting skills. Didn't talk on the field. Couldn't even spell what laning was.
It's kind of like it's like I'm not gonna say it's kind of like now because now I mean you're still fast and you're still playing the one, but now you actually have some gun skills. You know
Right.
how to play the game. So it's like but you still are that guy because and this is where watching you play the game is fun because you are aggressive. So I want you to continue your story, but what sports did you play growing up? Because you have that kind of wiry, kind of like a Carl Markowski. Maybe you're not as fast as Carl, but but you play kind of like with reckless abandon when you attack, and you're not a small dude. It's not like you're Kyle Spica size, but you're really quick. You got great aggressive tendencies, and you're not not scared to attack.
Yeah, 100%. So the sports I played the longest would be select soccer. I played select soccer for about 9-10 years. Then went into men's open for an indoor league. Did a lot of track, a lot of cross country. So a lot of running events, mainly for track. It was the mile, the 800, the 4x4 for some of the faster stuff. I enjoyed the field events, so long jump, triple jump. So a lot of that stuff I think definitely helped with my speed over the years. And just, muscular endurance with playing soccer. But yeah, I got to the point in my teenage years where my parents were busy every evening and every weekend with different practices and tournaments. And that's when they're saying, hey, you've got to pick one thing. Like time management is real. And so that's where I definitely wanted to stick with paintball and enjoy that.
Yeah, I did the same thing, man. When I was younger, I didn't do a track and field, but I played baseball, played football, and just really enjoyed those things. But then once I found paintball, like that's all I wanted to do. So I was 15 when I started playing, and 16 years old, I quit playing baseball. I didn't want to play football. All I wanted to do was just play paintball after that, and I had to get a job too because I mean, the parents would hook it up occasionally, but I needed to get money to play. So, so yeah, it can be a very addictive thing. So. Okay, so you started playing competitively then around 16 is what it sounds like, at least in the tournament scene.
Yep.
And then you started kind of getting onto some of these different teams. As then I started, because I know that the guys in the different areas. So when I'll see the Ryan Grays, and I'm like, I'm always talking to guys that are the old graybeards from those areas of the world, and I'm always asking like, oh, who's good, who's looking, and you got a new talent, and I remember when your name started coming up in the equation, like, oh, we picked up this young kid, he's real fast, named Clint Johnson. And I'm like, is he related to Mark? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. And then that's when you started kind of getting on the radar. But you've kind of bounced around a little bit. So kind of take me through the bouncing around and how that all worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've definitely made my way around. I'd say 2010 was a short year. I only played Chicago and World Cup with a Division II team called Dallas Roots. Next year, 2011, that's when I went and played with Texas Storm. And that was a really cool year. The first event was at Galveston, which weather was unfortunate with the team. But the next event, that was the year where Phoenix and PSP, I believe they did the same layout. That was at Galveston, and we actually won that event. So that was my first tournament win. That was Division I at the time. Yeah, I think it was called Division I at the time. And that's what really started to add, wood to the fire of not only just playing paintball with my friends, but really getting competitive and being able to be a top performer in the division. And so I want to say I played, the rest of the year, that year with Texas Storm. The following year, played both leagues. So played PSP with Texas Storm and then played 7-man with Camp Pendleton Raiders. And that was a year I think that really allowed me to grow as a player, because locally with Texas Storm, we'd play teams like X Factor, and really get good experience there. And then the next weekend, I'd be flying out to California, playing at Camp Pendleton with the Raiders against like Dynasty and teams like that. So that was definitely a growing year for myself. Really getting out of my comfort zone, a lot of traveling, sleeping at people's house. You don't know who they are. You just met them, but you're on the same team. So that was definitely a good experience. And then I think it was one more year with Storm. That was the year in the PSP with the Challengers and Champions division. And unfortunately, the team had to break up just due to some circumstances with budget and ownership and stuff like that. I'd actually got injured that year. I tore my hamstring 2 different times. And just the first time I tore it, didn't have to have surgery, but went back to the field too soon. And so missed out on 1 or 2 events that year. The following year, that's when I got set up with Sacramento Excessive. And that was a great experience. Rich Telford is a character. I know you guys go way back. But he's definitely one of my good friends, especially in the paintball community. Well, yeah, any event I see Rich, give him a big hug.
I was wondering how you got hooked up with Excessive. I played, obviously, helped start Excessive, but right. Rich was in my wedding. I love Rich. I'd die in a street fighting for Rich, but he's definitely a character. But I just was always wondering like how you got and once you started to say that you played for the Raiders. Because when you start to have guys getting out of their regions, because paintball is very tribal, as everyone well knows. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're from the Northeast, and yes, forget everybody else. And then it's like, oh, we're from Texas. I hate you guys up here, and that's always been that way. It's always been a very tribal thing. So when you start to see guys kind of branch out a little bit, I'm always wondering how that branching happened. So I'm wondering how you got kind of linked up with the California squads. So how did that work?
Yeah, that's a pretty simple story. So with Texas Storm that year, one of our main sponsors was Valken, and so was Camp Pendleton Raiders. And so I'm not sure exactly who kind of set that up for me, but they were looking for some players, and I think someone had a conversation with Ryan Gray, and like you said, just my name came up in conversation. And so I met with Rodney Squires, and a really great guy. He's who hosted me a lot of the weekends. I would fly in and he'd pick me up, and we'd create an experience. I'd stay at his house. And so I think it was mainly just the sponsorships and kind of having that similarities with how the teams were operating. So that was the story with Camp Pendleton Raiders and getting established in the 7-man arena, if you will. But with Excessive, that was actually kind of a funny story. So with Texas Storm, we had a practice up in Oklahoma at a field called Paintball Club of Choctaw. And some of the infamous guys were there at that time, Damian, Brad, and then Junior Brown, who was on Excessive at the time. He was up there for something, I'm not sure what, but he was actually at the field as well. And so it was basically a miniature practice, Storm and Infamous with a few extra bodies. And that was here. A good friend of mine, Omid, you probably remember him from Texas Storm, the rookie series. Him and I were just playing really good that weekend. Yeah. So we were that weekend, we were really just trying to push the limit on, hey, let's see how aggressive we can be this weekend. Let's see how many points, not only can we go far, but how consistent can we be with being a threat on the field? And so I remember, I think it was after that practice, Junior talked to Ryan a little bit like, hey, who is this kid? I don't really know him. And so I think he just kind of saw me at a distance at that practice. And then as Storm started to dissolve and players were trying to figure out their next steps, they were like, hey, we remember Clint. If it's cool, we'd like to set something up and give him somewhere to play. So yeah, just kind of one of those opportunities where I got noticed and, got to meet some people in the industry and kind of go from there.
Yeah, because I think it's a lot of times guys will ask me, I meet up and coming players or just players in general, and people will ask, hey, how do I get involved and how do I get on a team or how do I meet so I'm always trying to bring those stories to light. And I always tell people, I'm like, just make friends, dude. I don't buy someone a beer, go up and say what's up to people. Paintball people are all very similar, even if they could be completely different. They could be, you can be a super liberal guy, super conservative guy, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But tall, short, skinny, yellow, black, it doesn't matter. You have something in common. And when you start sitting down and breaking bread with everybody, you realize that, and this is the coolest thing about travel, is it really makes you understand that human beings are all really the same, man. We care about the same shit. It doesn't really matter where you grew up or what color you are, creed, or religion, or what country you're from. It's like, I remember bowling with the Iranian national paintball team once and drinking with these dudes, and we had a great time, and like, it's, it's like we had, and you start talking to guys, and all anyone ever really wants to talk about is what they eat, what they drink, their family, and then whatever their passions are, which is typically some sort of sports, if it's a dude. Anyway, so
exactly,
So I like hearing those stories, because people will always ask me that, like, how do I get involved? How can I travel and play and that sort of stuff? I'm like, I don't know, message somebody on Facebook, dude. You see them at a tournament, go say what's up. Buy somebody a beer, like, be friendly. Basically, don't be an asshole and be down to ride, like be down to play. Like you said, let's see what we can do on this field. And sure enough, that gets you a look. And that's, so it's like having a kind of a brave look at the world in general, and not being scared to step out of your comfort zone, talking to other humans or trying to break out of your mold as a player. Sometimes really beneficial stuff comes out of that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a guy I work with, phenomenal guy. He's taught me a lot just about the industry and, like you said, networking and stuff like that. But one thing he's always told me is, hey, Clint, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, right? And so it's the same with paintball. Just knock on people's door, go introduce yourself. If teams are at the field that you play at, just go up and talk to the players, get involved, try to jump in. It's just, paintball is one of those things where you're not sending out a resume. It's all about getting noticed and creating opportunities for yourself. And you just have to be the one to initiate that. So yeah, hopefully that helps someone.
Yeah. And even if you, like, I'm looking at your resume right here. I mean, look at this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 8. You played for 19 different teams, dude. That's a ton. But even if you have a resume, it doesn't really matter, because it's about what you do when you show up, which is just, it's a metaphor for life in general, man. This is why I love this game. But okay, so let's transition, because I can't keep you all here all night, because we could definitely tell all these different, each one of these different 19 teams here is a different story in and of itself. But eventually you make your way, you make your way into the AC program. I always liked Ryan Gray and Storm. I thought that was a pretty cool squad. It's an old school name. That team, Texas Storm, been around forever, so it's cool to see that come back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you always need your front attackers, those hyper aggressive dudes that are willing to get after it. The ones set the tempo and pace for all of paintball. So you're always looking for a Clint Johnson. But then you end up in the AC camp. So talk to me about that transition.
Yeah, so that was kind of a rough year. So leaving Excessive, the mindset was, hey, I'm spending a lot of time away from my family and friends. Like, I want to spend time playing paintball with my best friends. And so that was definitely Mark Johnson. And so we had a conversation. He was on TMG Outlaws. They had earned the pro spot for the following year. And so the year prior to AC Dallas, I played with TMG. There was just some headache there on my end mainly, and just some different decisions, different mindsets. And so I wanted to make a transition, and AC Dallas was actually doing a tryout right before World Cup. And so, yeah, Mark and I, we tried out, made the team. And so I actually played World Cup with AC Dallas, and we ended up getting third at that event. And those were a lot of my friends, right? Like my first divisional team, I played with TJ Danner. Like, that guy's my best friend on and off the field. So it felt right to be local again. It felt right to be for a Texas team. And so, yeah, then that's how the whole AC Dallas thing got established with some of the divisional teams, right? VCK, Texas Storm, they kind of merged into AC Dallas at that time. And so, yeah, that's how I got set up with AC Dallas. Again, had a good relationship with Greg from Texas Storm. I think on Texas Storm, I was definitely a lot more immature off the field. And so I think I gained a lot more respect from Greg at the time of AC Dallas, because that's something, Greg's a big believer in how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so he definitely kind of saw that in me, that the passion was still there, but a lot more of the discipline, both on and off the field. And so, yeah, that's what got me back on AC Dallas and had a really good year with them. And yeah, it just kind of goes from there.
Well, I think that's a story often told, particularly with fast, aggressive dudes that like to attack as front players. I mean, we've all can relate to this in some way, shape, or form. But when you're 18, you think you know everything, and when you're 25, you realize you don't know shit. And then that's when you kind of really start figuring things out in the world. You're like, oh well, okay. But I feel like that's even more so with guys that play paintball, because it's like if you have a fast, aggressive dude that throws caution to the wind and he's willing to tack into 4 guns and run dudes down and get riddled with paint, then that guy's probably even on the farther side of not giving a shit. He's probably even farther on the side of like, I know how to do things. I know how to play this game. And we've all had to work with those guys. But I feel like that, again, that's one of the blessings of the game, is that when you get in the mix, and you see this story often told where, I mean, look at Silos Cortez, or I mean, that comes to mind because we were doing an interview with the Ironman, and Silos has made his way around and now he's on the Ironman. And so, I mean, with damage, but we all have this story. You're young and talented, brash, a little arrogant, probably. You get on a squad, and then you have to deal with the coaches. You may not disagree with them all the time. And then you slowly, surely just get more experience and learn how to deal with other people, what works, what doesn't, on and off the field. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, like, you're a way better human being by the time you're in your mid-20s, because you had to deal with all that. Everyone had to deal with you. And now one day you're going to be that guy who's like dealing with the young, brash 18-year-old kid who's like, okay, man, I think you know everything. You think you know everything right now, and I love your spirit and I love your enthusiasm, but I'm gonna break this shit down for you. You really don't know anything right now. It's just one of those. It's a story often told, but that's part of it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and I think that's where it's been really cool to play on different teams and see how they operate, the mindsets they have, and just learn from different people. That was one thing I've really prided myself on, is I do think I'm extremely coachable. So no matter where I was playing on the field or who I was playing for, I was always in a learning phase. And I think that's why I'm able to play anywhere, anytime, any team, and still bring something to the table that can benefit a team overall.
Yeah. So then the transition to Diesel, because I think that Diesel has a really captivating story, because you guys earn your pro spot, and everyone was saying that Diesel was the team, obviously before the pandemic came through and kind of ruined everything. We'll see how everything transitions, but we will have paintball again, man. It's going to be played. We're going to start getting things back together here. And you guys took 11th at the first event. You did go 1-3, but every single team from 11th down to 19th went 1-3. And your roster is pretty stacked. You also have a ton of dudes on that squad. Now, we had Austin come on to talk about Team USA and the Combine, and I think that's a cool story that he has going on. But dude, you were the #1 killer out of AC Diesel, going off the My Fan Wagon stats. Get your picks in for the Ultimate Shootout. But you played 36 points, 21 kills. I mean, you had a pretty good showing. Nate Roberts played outstanding as well too. You guys were getting some guys in the mix, but you, Nate, and looks like Mark played the most amount of points.
Yep.
Yeah, all pretty even. So, but so even with the deep roster, you guys are leaning on a certain amount of dudes. You're one of those mainstays of that starting 5. And since you guys did earn your spot the hardest way you can, which is, authentically getting through the semi-pro division, but because so many of these different dudes, again, it's you, Nate Roberts, Johnson, Baginski, McCarthy, Austin, Sean Salcedo, Ben Challenger, Zimmerman. I mean, it's a stacked team. These are all names that I've said on the main field before on one team or another in the past, 4, 5, 6 years, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on who we're talking about. So you guys got young dudes on the team, you got old ass dudes on the team, but a ton of experience. It's a captivating story. And coming out of I think what is the mecca of the paintball of paintball right now, which is Texas. But there's guys from different areas. Anyway, I just kind of talk a little bit about the AC Diesel story, because I feel that once we get things going, given a year or two, if you can keep that squad together, you could be competitive. But you are brother teams with AC Dallas, which on the other hand is the opposite. They only have 6 dudes on that team. So I'm just wondering, at what point in time is Paulie gonna, maybe pull a guy here or there, or if they're not going to do that, because they've done really well with a limited amount of dudes, and everyone on their starting roster is awesome. And it does create complications when you go with the deep roster, because then you're trying to keep all those guys happy with the playing time. It's a difficult thing. But talk about getting on Diesel, working back into that program, and then building and helping build that team up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I honestly didn't really see it coming. I think Diesel, 2 or 3 years ago at the first of the year in Vegas, I think they got dead last. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I'm not the best with stats and keeping up with years and tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, I actually ended 2017. I played that year with X Factor, was recently married, making a job transition and things like that. So I actually took a year off in 2018, didn't play at all, sprayed some Febreze, got a fresh start, if you're catching my drift. And didn't really see myself returning to paintball. I knew I was going to come back eventually, but didn't know the time frame of it. So took off 2018, and then at the beginning of 2019, that's when Mark Johnson had reached out to me. We're really good friends. We have a relationship whether we're playing paintball or not. He was the best man at my wedding. I'm going to be the best man at his. So he's definitely had my back. He's the one who made paintball extremely possible for me growing up. But yeah, he just spoke to me and said, "Hey man, you've already played pro. We already have a pro team this year. We're putting the nail in the coffin. We're going to have 2 pro teams. This organization can handle it. We have the players. We're just right. If we look at our tool belt, there's a few more tools we need." And so, yeah, we had a really good conversation, put a game plan together for 2019 to be top performers and earn the spot. And what's funny is when you plan out the work and work out the plan, things happen to go your way. And so that was the plan. 2019 was extremely rough. We only had, I think, 3 to 4 players on the roster that played every single event. So instead of being able to assess, address, progress each event, it was like, okay, we've got 4 guys who are playing the next event. What 3 can we pick up for this next event to have a roster, bring them into our program, and go from there? And so 2019 definitely built, I think, the mental capacity for the players like Mark, both Marks and myself, to say, hey, we have to show up every practice, every event, because we are part of the core 4. So I think 2019 really allowed us to get through some of those growing pains, to be able to play every point and handle it, not just physically, but mentally as well. And so, yeah, we put a lot of work in the off season. We put a lot of work into the season. And it was kind of comical wrapping up 2019 when we did win the series and we won the pro spot. The most common question we got, Maddie, is, you guys are going to have 2 teams. How are you guys going to practice? How's this going to work? And we've had 2 teams this whole time. We've had AC Dallas. We've had AC Diesel. It's the same thing. Nothing's changing. It's just we're both playing in the same division now. We don't like each other when we're playing against each other. We're all friends off the field. Like, that's not going to change. And so, yeah, as far as roster changes go and things like that in regards to the teams, Dallas versus Diesel, I don't see anything changing. But hey, that's paintball, right? A season ends and there's always changes. So I can't tell you anything on that or what that's going to look like. But no, Diesel's fired up. Dallas is fired up. We did go 1-3, and the numbers don't lie. But when you look at the point margins, our games were a lot closer than the other teams that went 1-3. And so, are we comfortable going 1-3? Absolutely not. Did we have a chance to move on Sunday? Absolutely. We just needed to beat Impact or Uprising, and we made mistakes in both those matches. And teams that make mistakes don't move on. And so we just have to take responsibility for that and come out better next event.
Yeah, I actually have all the point margins in front of me right here. You guys said 17 points for, 19 against for a -2. Infamous was right with you guys as well, but they took 12th and you took 11th. And with their revamped lineup, I think that, and with the Ironman winning, I think that, look, I know we're having this huge break, but
yeah,
Jesus Christ, dude, if you can't take solace and draw confidence off of the Ironman's victory with their revamped lineup, and you're an up-and-coming pro team, then you should not be doing it at this level. Take your ass back down to the divisions, because if that doesn't give you confidence, then you do not deserve to be here mentally. Because the fact that they won that tournament with the revamped lineup, it was incredibly impressive. And so when you go and you look at we've never had the pro ranks deeper. So that's why even when we start doing these regional events, when we do get to cup, like, so the NXL, we don't know exactly, they don't know yet either, but they're going to be potentially doing these regional events. And then we're going to be doing one-on-ones. Everyone's just trying to make paintball reality still. That's where there's no old man to go consult on this right now. There's no one to be like, hey, the last time we had paintball in a pandemic, what did you do? That's not how it works. Or everyone's trying to figure this out and keep this shit alive. So help us. This is my plea to everyone out here. And I'm glad that, you guys are down for this. But when you look at Diesel, yeah, so you guys were super close. Infamous, they were right, the 19 points for 21 against. They scored more points overall. You guys are going to be up on them as far as overall series rankings are concerned. You guys both went 1-3. You guys lost to DMG. Beat the brakes off DMG 7-1. And you lost to Heat by 5. You lost Impact by 2, and then you lost to Uprising by 1. So it was getting better for you guys. Yeah. Now, I know that the results weren't getting better because you won your first game and then lost the next 3, but you went and played Impact and only lost by 2. Uprising is a team that's made it to the top 4 before. They're great. They didn't have their best event. They took 19th, but they still went 1-3 and took 19th, but they had a negative 13 overall. So it's yeah, man, it's going to be super fascinating once we jump back into it. I just think that, it is my job to follow all these storylines. And I do think that AC Diesel has a real compelling storyline based on what you guys have done. The fact that you had, a pared down roster and couldn't get everyone to commit, but still found a way to win overall by winning that one event and staying relevant at the rest. And then coming in with a bunch of these experienced and talented guys that I've seen on other squads before, with a mixture of young and old, that's the magic ticket. That's the type of things. That's the mix that you need to put in, the ingredients you need to put into the recipe to have a successful team. And then going down the list at all the other teams that are ranked below you, it's just going to get really interesting once we get back into it. But let's touch base on the one-on-one here. So, I saw, you guys went in Texas, and, obviously social distancing, trying to make sure we're doing everything we can here but we needed to have like a proof of concept. So you guys were able to get together and do a little kind of demo just to kind of try some stuff out. You did really well. I was watching the footage and I'm like, man, I always, Clint's good, but it's just interesting to watch it in a one-on-one because it really isolates critical thinking, gunfight skills, and agility. So that's what I think is interesting when you kind of rein all of the different things and the elements you need to be good at the game of paintball. And then you put it under the microscope in the microcosm of that one-on-one with the way that this format is, with the different buzzers worth different points. So, you are playing this gunfight chess match with just this one dude having to do these certain objectives. And it definitely helps to be, to have a lot of stamina, to be very physically fit, and to be nimble and agile. But also you have to be a good gunfighter because you can get your ass blown to bits. I don't care how nimble or agile you are if you're not a good gunfighter, because it's one-on-one. So we're going to be having the Ultimate Shootout Texas. It's going to be coming out the 30th. And it's kind of, I think there's just some compelling lineups, man. We'll start with your match. I mean, you're playing Jesse, so I think that's a good one, dude. You got Clint Johnson versus Jesse Stevens. So you got a series champ right now, a guy who is a big fixture of the offensive push on either side of the field. So this dude can play any bunker. Jesse Stevens, he's been, we had him on the show recently. He's got a really compelling story too. But he's, now he's matching up with you. I think either one of you guys could potentially steal this win because, Archie's in the mix. We got Matt Jackson in the mix playing Nate Roberts. BJ's playing Ryan Hall. So that's like front player versus front player from AC Dallas. So there's some there's some compelling narratives here. I really can't wait to see what happens. But let's start with your matchup. So you're taking on Jesse. You did really well at the demo. What do you think, man?
Yeah, it's super comical because the footage that was sent out was the last, round that we did. So it was a full day of trial and error of, rate of fire, how to score points and all of that. So it was just kind of comical to all of us because, like you said, we're trying to practice social distancing. We're trying to follow the rules. And then we're also like asking every 5 seconds, wait, what are the rules? How do I score? How do I win? And so it was a long day of just like, where am I? Who's president? Like, what's going on? So I'm a big fan of the Ultimate Shootout because it's a really good time because it's so different than team paintball, right? We've all been in a situation in team paintball where you have the ball and whatever you decide to do with it it's going to come out positive or negative, right? You're either going to be the hero or the villain. And that's a tough situation to be in, because I've personally been in that situation for the team where, hey, we can, hey, a few seconds left before the match is over, or a few seconds left in overtime, I'm going to make a move or do a play. If it works, like you said, you're the hero. If it doesn't work, you're the villain. Where in this format, you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about facing your coach afterwards or looking your team in the eyes. It's, I decided to make that move and I can take full responsibility. And that's pretty cool. So that was one thing I'm a big fan of for this format. It allows you to be creative and just really focus on the guy in front of you. And that's a lot different than team paintball versus saying, where are we going to go off the break? What are the major risks? Who are we shooting? It's just, hey, this is going to be really simple, right? One-on-one. And so I'm fired up just for the format as a whole. It's pretty cool to see paintball players come together and just try to find a solution with the time frame we're in. But yeah, the format is awesome. It's a super good time. Like you said, it's not just the generic paintball of we're going to shoot everybody, then jog over to a buzzer and tap it, and we get a point. There's a lot of different ways to score. There's a lot of different ways to win. So it's going to be very interesting. And the coolest part is when you're sitting out, you're still having just as much fun. That was the coolest experience, where I would play a match, we'd try a format, and then I would sit a match and we'd watch. And it's super fun to watch two guys just go at it. It's gladiator style. It's who's going to come out on top. And so instead of having to sit down a match and watch 5 bodies and who's playing your spot and take a bunch of notes, it's just, I can be a fan when I'm taking a break versus still working, if that makes sense. So yeah, the one-on-one format is legit. It's going to be a good time for people who are playing it and the spectators. It is going to be awesome. The rate of fire is a little bit higher as well, 13-3. So louder, faster. It's going to be awesome. As far as my matchup goes with Jesse, I think it's going to be good because from the layout, there's some big bunkers. I'm pretty sure he can't see over the top unless he wears his high heels, but I think he gave those up a few years ago. So I'm going to use that. I'm probably going to try to play over the top as much as I can. But Jesse's fast. Jesse's got really good mechanics, right? We've seen him run and gun to places. He's got the wheels. He's got the gun skills. But this is, again, a format where you're not going to have somebody behind you. It's a different ball game when Jesse's up the field and he has a Colt Roberts or an Archie Montemayor behind him, right? Where this is all on him. I think that's something that's going to be a little bit different. I think we're going to get together and play a little bit in, this next weekend or so and kind of work out the kinks. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do a little exhibition match. Maybe we won't. I want to show my moves yet. He's probably been scouting my film, hiding in his bedroom, trying to learn everything he can, taking notes, eating Cheetos on a beanbag. But I'm fired up. It's going to be a good match. Either way, we'll be able to trash talk. I think we're going to be mic'd up. And so there'll be some words, there'll be some conversations coming back and forth, but it's going to come down to points, who gets the points and who moves on. And that's what we'll talk about it when it's all done.
Yeah. And it's so, again, it's a quarterfinals. I'm just happy we have some sort of paintball again. And this is why we're doing this. This is the whole reason we're sitting around at Go Sports. We're like, dude, okay, regional events, what's happening? Oh, this is getting canceled. Okay, well, there's just thousands of paintball players sitting on their hands over here, wanting to do something, wanting to watch something, and that now things are starting to open up a little bit. Obviously, we still have to be careful because we do have a virus going around, but I feel like this is the perfect thing. So I was watching the demo reel kind of come back, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, that game you played against Nate, it was because, you went up some points, it came back a little bit. And then what buzzer you're going for. Yeah. I think tactically it's going to get really interesting. But then I started to see okay, well, who's can actually show up and play, who's going to make it. And I think it's compelling. I mean, you have, again, BJ and Ryan Hall. I can't wait to see that match. We just had Ryan Hall on the show. He's got a great story too, arc anodizing. And, he started out young age, came on to he's got a fascinating story. If you haven't seen that episode, go back and check it out. BJ, he fought long and hard to get, and and AC Dallas picked him up because he's a missile, man. He's an athletic specimen. So he's also like any one of these dudes could win this particular format. And the fact that it's, the newer front player that they picked up to basically, I wouldn't say take Ryan Hall's spot, but, because they needed somebody to play hyper aggressive. And this is the type you were playing hyper aggressive against Nate, and it was working out.
Oh yeah.
And then Archie's going to play Mark Johnson. So you got, one of the best players on earth on any given day playing a super salty veteran who nobody should sleep on because, Mark Johnson's really good at paintball, man. Good gunfighter. He's a highly intelligent dude out there on that field. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. And then you got Nate Robertson, Matt Jackson. So it's, Nate Roberts is another cerebral gunfighter, very smart guy. He makes smart decisions out there, and he's going to be taking on Matt Jackson, who's won a Golden Barrel, and he also could win it too. So I just looking at the matchups, I think this could be it's going to be really fun to watch. I can't wait to check it out. It's going to be super sweet. Yeah. So everyone out there is going to be coming out. So so because I'm trying to find I got to find the brackets real quick though, because if you win, I got to go and see who you actually could play after that, unless you got it off the top of your head.
I think I play the winner of Archie and Mark.
Yes. Yeah. So it's essentially the way the bracket's breaking down is, so the winner of Archie and Mark is going to be the winner of your guys' game, you and Jesse. And then it's going to be Ryan and BJ. The winner of that one is going to play the winner of Matt Jackson and Nate Roberts. And some of these players, and this is why I wanted to get you on the show, is because I'm like, look, man, if you're from Texas, okay, cool. Some people that play paintball competitively in your area, they know who you are. You have gone to these different places, but like you said, you took a break. And I just wanted to remind people that you are a talent. You've been around for a while. You're a dark horse in this tournament. And I think this format plays great to you. It definitely plays well for Jesse too. But then, looking at this, it's like, okay, well, Mark Johnson's played on a ton of teams. He's playing against Archie. Archie's obviously the odds-on favorite there. We're talking, this is Archie Montemayor, man. But that could be a huge win for Mark if he could pull off that victory here. And I got to tip my hat to Archie, because but if you're one of the best players in the world going to play a one-on-one, I have to give respect to Archie that he was willing to do this, because anytime you go, I played in one-on-ones before. I actually have a hilarious one-on-one story, because I can't keep you forever, and we gotta have to sign off here pretty soon. But this is a super embarrassing one-on-one story, but also kind of funny at the same time. So we go to Mardi Gras, and I think it was 2001, and we had 2 Ironman squads there, and it was 5-man. So this was 2000. So it was 2000, because that was the year that Oliver basically ran through on Image and shot 5 dudes and got paintball famous real quick. So the 5-man that I was on, we get knocked out. So heading into Sunday, I went out all Saturday night on Bourbon Street, dude. I didn't sleep. I was just I don't know, 5 sheets to the wind. Showed up at the field super hammered, because the plan was to show up at the field and support our guys. That's what we were told. They're like, all right, you guys got knocked out. I think I was 21 years old at the time. And so they were like, you have to show up at the field tomorrow and help out our team that's still in. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now, they did not say you had to sleep and show up at the field and help out the guys. They just said you had to be there. So the guys on our team that got knocked out, we literally stayed up all night long and just had a great, crazy ass, amazing time that I don't even really remember exactly what happened. But we got to the field at like 9 o'clock in the morning, barely made it before our team's first game, help them fill pods. And I'm still, again, halfway to hammered, like I didn't sleep at all. And Todd Adamson comes up to me. He's like, oh, there you are. Dude, I've been trying to find you all morning. You're playing in the one-on-one. And I'm like, the hell I am. I didn't sleep last night. I'm drunk right now. There's no way I'm going to play in the one-on-one. He's like, you have to play. I already paid for you to play. And if you win, you get a jet ski. But because I paid for you to play, I get the jet ski, but I'll give you $1,000 cash today. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm in. I was like, okay, sweet. So I make it. So I don't even think I'm going to make it out of the first round, but I make it all the way to the finals. I think I beat Alex Frazier, I beat Marcus Nielsen, beat one of the Gardner brothers. Anyway, so I get all the way to the finals, and in the finals is where it's embarrassing. So, and also I had a 3-pack, and I had 2 pods of paint and a pot of beer the entire time too. So I had like a pod full of beer and then 2 pods of paint. So I make it all the way to the finals, and I don't even know how I got that far. And the dude I'm playing I don't know this guy's full name, but his name was Sparky. Yeah, that's all I know. His name was Sparky. He was some divisional player, and he just like, you see that guy. This has got like the dorky style, but somehow he's good with it. Like everything about his game is rubbish. The style is rubbish. The snapshot looked rubbish, but so anyway, but he was just he beat all these good players on the way to the finals. So I'm looking at this dude, and I made the age-old mistake. And now also I don't want to make it an excuse, but now it's late afternoon. I haven't slept in a day. I've been drinking for probably 24 hours straight. And I'm just like, I'm going to murder this guy. This isn't even be close. So I got really sloppy, and I lose the first gunfight immediately. And it's a best 2 of 3. just standard one-on-one on a 5-man field shooting autocockers at each other. And then yeah, so then I lose the next one, and Sparky wins the jet ski, and I have to sit up there and watch Sparky get the keys to this jet ski, and him talking about how, like, yeah, I was destined to win this. I didn't come here to take second, just talking all this shit up there, and everyone's just like, Maddie, we can't believe you lost to Sparky. And I'm like, I can't believe you guys didn't get as far as I did. Anyway, that's my super embarrassing,
Right.
slightly funny story from Mardi Gras from 2000 in my one-on-one days. But anyway, it's gonna be fun, man. Well, Clint, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me about your story, the Diesel story. I can't wait to see what happens. Maybe we'll have to touch base again with you after you win this thing. I do think you have a legit chance, dude. And I think that you're looking at, like, that's what I'm saying. I wanted to get you on the show because I'm like, we got to get Clint on the show, man. Clint's legit. He's super talented. I know he took a break, but he was the #1 killer for AC Diesel at the first event. And moving forward, once we get everything going again, I think you're going to get way more paintball famous, man. And I can't wait to see you guys take the field again. And I can't wait to see what happens with the one-on-one. So thank you so much. Any last words?
No, I'm excited. I appreciate the time. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. But yeah, just how you felt, on that podium, watching that guy win. I mean, that's how Jesse's going to feel after our first match. I'll leave it at that.
I love it. Oh, I love it. I can't wait. All right. We finally got competitive paintball going back again. I can't wait to see it. All right, Clint, you have a great night, and best of luck to you come the competition. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Clint, thank you so much for sitting down with me. And again,
Yes,
we got tons of content coming at you next week. At home on Mondays, Tactical Tuesdays with Todd Martinez. Going to be breaking down the finals from Vegas. And then we got shows Wednesdays and Fridays live as we build up to this the one-on-one championship, or it's the championship from Texas and Dallas. Planning on having more, obviously, until we figured our way through this damn pandemic. Anyway, stay safe, stay sane. I'll see you guys next week. Welcome to Go Sports Tactics. I'm here with one of the best in the business, attacker on the snake side of the field, Keith Brown, Tampa Bay Damage.
It's one of those things I actually learned over time with playing the tournament and the games before. You'll see Brendikov makes a Brendikov shot and shoots me over the top. I didn't even know he could see over the top. You see him in the middle of the field right there. He is going to run the right 50 on the break. That's where he really wants to go.